dun, 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 dun. What's up, everybody? Jamie, your Mythic Game Master here once again to talk to you a little bit about gaming today as we head into the new year. I hope you all had an excellent Christmas, Hanukkah, and or Kwanzaa, or all of the above. if such a thing is possible, but I'm sure it is somewhere. Anyway, I was asked a question by a player in one of my Pathfinder games, Bartleby specifically, about character motivation ideas. Not to give anything away, but I thought I would come up with a few suggestions to help folks out and also possibly develop a way to help people that randomly come across this. Now, check this out. Look, there's double 100. That was accidental. That's a bad sign for my players because I haven't even opened this yet and it's already rolled. Double aughts, as they say. Got that today in the mail, and I also received Mutant Crawl Classics. I picked this up because my latest Pathfinder game is kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, using the Rifts setting, so parts of it might have that old school Gamma World feel, or something like Mutant Crawl Classics even. You know, I'm going to do another video on that someday about building your own campaign and talk about just drawing inspiration and invoking ideas from everywhere. But we don't have to call upon too much because Rifts has plenty of ideas all on its own. There's my campaign notebook. So things are serious once I put together a campaign notebook, because that means I've taken time to print stuff out and start writing out ideas. I have to be careful about flipping open too much. Here we go. There's a safe page, right? Rifts, Adventures of the Southern Crows. I think I changed that to A Murder of Crows because why not? I guess that's what you're supposed to say. If anything is called that, right? But there you go. So I'm going to give you a few tools. One here is a website, nownovel.com. I put up a link to this on my Discord, which most people aren't going to be able to see, but the people on Discord can, obviously. Give each character their own credible motivation. Give characters conscious and unconscious motivations. Show how motives stem from rational and irrational beliefs. I can't read through the glare there. Develop characters' motivations with new plot events. Don't give characters what they want to easily. Allow subtlety when revealing what drives your characters. Make motivations complex to increase suspense. So, you know, at least in a role-playing context, you could easily develop the first three by seeing what inspires you about the game in which you are playing. You know, based on your class, based on the character race or ancestry, if you're playing Pathfinder 2 or future games, if they all switch to that verbiage. But Rifts has plenty to inspire of its own. So the first tool that I recommend is always just look to the setting. See what inspires you in the game in which you're playing. Here we have Rifts. What drew me to Rifts initially was the absolutely intriguing artwork on the cover. You know, it had this kind of cross-genre appeal, like Predator and Terminator and Buckaroo Banzai across the sixth dimension or whatever dimension he goes across. Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers, all those, you know, classic pulpy kind of things. And there's a lot to inspire you if you're interested in riffs. Another good source book, Vampire Kingdoms, Atlantis. I'll just throw out all my books here, but specifically the setting in which I chose to place my Rifts game was in the Lone Star territory, south of the Lone Star Complex. Lone Star Complex is run by the coalition states, which are the evil space Nazis, if you will. And to the south, below the last wall, are the vampire kingdoms. So you have this wasteland across which are running savage, wild vampires like that. Now, hopefully that's not supposed to be social commentary or whatever, but for our purposes, part of it's social commentary maybe with our space Nazis, and then part of it's just science fiction. It'd be cool to have vampires in Mexico, if you will. If you want to turn that into social commentary, say you have a character that has some sort of Latino heritage and he wants to see parts of Mexico restored. Boom, you've turned it into a redeeming story. Now, what did we do? We looked at the setting and came up with something. Here you have Lone Star. The Lone Star territory is obviously Old Texas. The Lone Star Complex, this pre-Rifts military complex run by the coalition. So that's kind of the interesting thing of this setting. And I didn't realize this until I started to put it on paper, but I'm like, man, this sure seems familiar to that whole Game of Thrones and the Wall thing and everything, where they're at the edge of civilization and what have you. So there you go. If I subconsciously ripped off George R.R. Martin, don't tell him, because I don't need him to sue me, obviously, but I'm not going to publish these anytime soon. I'm just running this setting for 4 or 5 people. So rather than go to something like, say, the Savage Worlds Rifts setting, I just went to the original books, and came up with what I came up with. I wanted to come up with something that was new, that could kind of take place at the current point in the Rifts universe timeline, if you will, because it does have kind of a history and a continuity to it, if you know anything about it, like the Coalition War and that kind of stuff. So that way, if there were players that were experienced with a lot of Rifts games, this would still feel new to them, and it also wouldn't contradict anything they had played before. It's kind of like playing the same module over and over again. It's like, man, I've already played, Crypt of the Everflame. How many times am I going to play this, So, look at your setting, That's tip number 1. And, this setting is really cool. I went with this area across the Pecos Empire, which is the southern Lone Star, southern Old Texas area, because along the eastern part of it, where it gets close to the Gulf and whatnot, there are parts that might get close to the dinosaur swamp, and the dinosaur swamp is exactly what it sounds like. It's a dinosaur swamp. I mean, come on. The name alone is awesome, right? It's just everything that's great about pulp fiction and that style of storytelling. The mechanoids, all these covers are great. It's like, oh man, what are these evil robots? And then things like that. The Ziti-6, which are the strange aliens of the Rifts universe. Okay, so let me give you some more tools. So the next thing to look to find your motivation will be your party. Okay, so our party is going to be represented by the party backstory generator, speaking in the general R and also the specific hour. I always recommend running the party backstory generator during session 0. It essentially just gives you a lot of plot hooks that your characters have supposedly already done and completed prior to the start of actually playing. So just think of it as giving your PCs a year of experience together already at whatever they're doing. They all know each other, and these are some of the things and some of the places where they may have met or encountered each other, and or why, over the previous few years. And that's how you build a party backstory. It's not an individual backstory, it's a party backstory. And again, that kind of reflects off of your settings, because your setting is going to build your party, and you want to look at your party to have kind of a balance there. That's kind of the awesome thing about role-playing games and Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons and Rifts and Palladium Fantasy role-playing game, if you want. It encourages group play and everyone working together. And the groups that work together best are the ones that usually succeed the best. I mean, it seems like maybe this is just me, but it seems like a lot of modern gamers that come from an online gaming background will have a tendency to be used to more solo play, and they might be more interested in starting conflict within the party as much as they are, having these conflicts outside of the party and having big battles or whatever. And that would be fun to them, but to me, it's not. Because I always say, if you just want to do player versus player, you can just do that. You don't need a game master, and you don't need an adventure. You can just get a bunch of players together, and you can all fight each other like it's Fortnite or whatever. And to me, that's not interesting. I'd rather build a story. So another thing about choosing the part of the Lone Star territory that I did to place this, and the Pecos Empire and all that, is because it's kind of a lawless land. And one of the things I discovered was that the Savage Worlds Rifts bases their setting around the Tomorrow Legion, which is a group of cyber knights, essentially. So so it's like a group of good do-gooders, so to speak. And I didn't know that. I just thought, what, mercenaries is what interests me the most, I think, because you can have people in this area for a variety of reasons. They could be here just for simply to make money. They could be collecting cybernetic parts. They could just be crazy and they want to kill people. Any one of those reasons are perfectly valid. Third tool I wanted to show you is the Ultimate RPG Character Backstory Guide. Prompts and activities to create the most interesting story for your character. So if you have absolutely no ideas, you can pick this up off of Amazon for like $10. If you have Amazon Prime, it'll be at your house in 2 days. It's pretty interesting. It's just a workbook that helps you come up with ideas for your character. And just fills in a lot of the nooks and crannies. It just forces you to do it. So yeah, there's like a literal tool for you right there, the RPG Character Backstory Guide. So there are a few ways that you can come up with character motivation. And of course, always talk to your game master or your dungeon master and bounce ideas back and forth. Something's bound to come in. Oh, and the final tool I'll give you, I guess I'll give you a bonus tool, and it's almost a joke, okay? But it's not really a joke. What does that say? It says fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Now, part of writing long term is you might have a really good idea of where you want something to go, in terms of a story, a third act in a longer, or even a fifth act in a longer story arc. With the parallel being like a role-playing character class having levels from 1 to 20. You know, the final later parts of it are going to be levels 18, 19, and 20. Well, that's where your story is going to end up there. That's the 5th act. That's the 3rd act. The later parts, the conclusion, and the eventual denouement, if you will. Sorry, my cat just made noise in there, knocked something over, I think. So I lost my train of thought, wondering like, oh no, what did the cats just knock over? So you want to have a general idea, and you might have an idea where you want level 20 to be, where you want the 3rd act to end up, where you want Act 5 to end up. And you have an idea where you are right now at level 1 and starting out, or level 3, or whatever level you're starting at. Our Rifts campaign is going to start at 3, just to kind of front load the characters and make them suitably powerful, as crazy Rift characters tend to be. And you don't have to know all the things in between. You don't necessarily have to understand all of your motivations. You can just kind of leave it blank. And as you play and interact in your world and with your group and with the story that's presented to you, you will fill in the blanks as you go along. And that is the beauty of role-playing. So there you go. Give this a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. This is Jamie, the Mythic Game Master, wishing you a happy new year. Happy gaming.